Malaysia just banned over 3,000 foreign workers in a single week, but here's what the headlines won't tell you. This isn't about immigration. It's about a system collapsing in real time, and what's happening there is already spreading to 47 other countries. The Petronas Towers gleam in every travel vlog. Street food, beaches, truly Asia, they say. But 30 minutes outside Kuala Lumpur, there's a different Malaysia, one where human beings are traded like commodities, where governments profit from poverty, where your morning coffee, your smartphone, and your clothes might be connected to a system so broken, it makes Dubai's labor camps look regulated. I spent 3 months investigating this. What I found isn't just about Malaysia. It's a blueprint being copied worldwide. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at economic miracles the same way again. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment, "I subscribe," below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. Let's start with a number, $12,400. That's Malaysia's GDP per capita. Sound impressive, right? Middle-income country, rising economy, Southeast Asian tiger. Now here's the number they don't put in the brochures. 40% of that wealth is controlled by just 1% of the population. According to the World Bank's 2023 Inequality Report, Malaysia has one of the widest wealth gaps in Asia. The towers are real. The prosperity? It's concentrated in so few hands, you'd need a microscope to find it. Meet Rajesh. He's 34, from a small village in Tamil Nadu, India. His family owned 2 acres of farmland. Not much, but enough. In 2022, a recruitment agent showed up promising construction jobs in Kuala Lumpur. $2,500 a month, the agent said. That's about $600. 6 times what Rajesh could make at home. There was a catch. The agent fee, $8,000. Rajesh sold the family land, borrowed the rest from loan sharks at 18% monthly interest. He thought he was investing in his children's future. He arrived in Kuala Lumpur on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, reality hit. His passport? Confiscated at the airport by his company handler. His salary? Cut to $900, about $200. Less than minimum wage, which doesn't apply to foreign workers anyway. His housing? A retrofitted shipping container in an industrial zone outside Seremban, shared with 12 other men. No windows. 1 bathroom. Temperature inside, 95 degrees Fahrenheit on cool days. If you've ever been promised a better life somewhere else, this will hit different. But here's the thing. Rajesh isn't an isolated case. He's the system working exactly as designed. According to the International Labor Organization's 2024 Malaysia report, there are 2.1 million documented foreign workers in the country. That's the official number. The real estimate? Between 4 and 6 million. That's a 200% discrepancy. Nearly half of Malaysia's foreign workforce is undocumented, invisible, and completely unprotected. Think about that. A country of 33 million people has up to 6 million foreign workers. That's 1 in 5 people. And half of them don't officially exist. But Rajesh's story isn't even the worst part. What the Malaysian government just discovered will shock you. Behind Malaysia's tech boom and skyscrapers lies a $43 billion black hole that nobody's talking about. Here's how it works. Foreign workers in Malaysia send money home remittances, they're called. According to Bank Negara Malaysia, the country's central bank, foreign workers remitted $15 billion out of Malaysia in 2024 alone. That's more than the country's entire education budget, more than they spend on healthcare. It's money flowing out of the Malaysian economy every single year. Now, before you think that's their money, they earned it, you're absolutely right. But here's what makes this a crisis. Malaysian businesses are structurally dependent on cheap foreign labor. They've built entire industries around paying workers less than what a Malaysian citizen would accept. And because those workers send 60 to 80% of their earnings home, that money never circulates back into the local economy. It's a closed loop of extraction. Let me introduce you to Amina. She's 28, born and raised in Johor Bahru. She graduated with an engineering degree from University Technology Malaysia in 2022. Top 15% of her class. Bilingual. Ready to build a career. She's been unemployed for 18 months. Every factory I apply to says I'm overqualified, she told me. But what they really mean is I'm too expensive. Her father, Hassan, worked for 30 years in an electronics factory in Penang. Assembly line supervisor. Middle-class income. Sent Amina to university. In 2023, the factory restructured. They replaced Hassan and 40 other Malaysian workers with foreign labor earning half the salary. Hassan now drives Grab, Malaysia's version of Uber, at 61 years old. According to the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, youth unemployment sits at 12.4%, triple the national average. But here's the kicker. There are 3.2 million job vacancies in Malaysia. The jobs exist. Malaysian citizens just won't take them at the wages being offered. And businesses won't raise wages because they don't have to. There's an endless supply of desperate foreign workers willing to accept anything. It's a race to the bottom. And everyday Malaysians are losing. But here's what economist Dr. Lee Wei Ming from University of Malaya found disturbing when he studied this system. We've created an economic model that punishes our own citizens for wanting a living wage. We're subsidizing corporate profits with human suffering and calling it competitiveness. The workers aren't the problem. The system profiting from them is, and it goes deeper than you think. Malaysia doesn't have an immigration problem. It has a trafficking problem disguised as economic policy. Let me be clear. I'm not using trafficking as hyperbole. In 2024, the U.S. State Department's Trafficking in Persons report kept Malaysia on the Tier 2 watch list for the 7th consecutive year. That means the U.S. government officially recognizes Malaysia as a country where human trafficking is a significant, ongoing problem and the government isn't doing enough to stop it. Now let me tell you about Lu Wei. She's 29, from Guangdong Province, China. She came to Malaysia in 2023 to work in a garment factory in Selangor. Her agent back in China promised her RM 1,800 a month, about $400 US. Not amazing, but stable. She paid the agent $3,000 upfront for processing fees. 3 months into the job, Lu Wei discovered something by accident. Her supervisor left a payment invoice on his desk. It showed the factory was paying the recruitment agency RM 1,800 per month for Lu Wei's labor. Lu Wei herself was receiving RM 600. The agency was taking RM 1,267% of her salary every single month. She'd already paid $3,000 up front. Now they were taking 2/3 of her paycheck. Indefinitely. When Lu Wei confronted the agent, he didn't deny it. He said, "You still owe us for renewal fees, medical insurance, and housing. You'll pay until your contract ends. If you leave early or complain, we'll report you to immigration. And we have your sister's address in Shenzhen." That's not employment. That's extortion. According to Tenaganada, a Malaysian NGO that works with migrant workers, recruitment agencies in Malaysia operate a $2 to $5 billion industry annually. They're legal businesses registered with the government. But functionally, they operate like labor brokers in a modern-day indenture system. Workers pay to work. Agents collect from both sides. And because most workers are undocumented or on precarious visas, they have zero legal recourse. If you think modern slavery doesn't exist, Malaysia's agent system will change your mind. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. Why does the Malaysian government allow this? So why does the government allow this? The answer involves politicians, corruption, and money trails that are deliberately hard to follow. Big headlines. Tough talk from ministers. Crackdown on exploitation. By 2024, 41 of those agents were back in business. Here's why. In 2023, the investigative news outlet Malaysiakini published a deep dive expose linking 12 major recruitment agencies directly to officials within UMNO, Malaysia's long-dominant political party. Not low-level operatives. We're talking about agencies owned by family members of former ministers, directors appointed by party insiders, and corporate structures designed to obscure ownership. The business model is simple. political protection in exchange for financial contributions, campaign donations, consulting fees, luxury properties purchased through shell companies. And here's the damning statistic. Between 2018 and 2022, foreign worker permits increased by 340% despite rising local unemployment. The Malaysian government issued permits at record rates while its own citizens couldn't find jobs. Why? Because each permit generates fees, and those fees flow to the agencies. And the agencies flow money back into political networks. It's a closed ecosystem of exploitation and profit. Remember Rajesh? The man who sold his family's land for a job in Malaysia? He finally worked up the courage to file a formal complaint with the Indian embassy in Kuala Lumpur. He had a documentation contract showing promised salary versus actual salary, photos of the living conditions, proof his passport was confiscated. The embassy forwarded it to Malaysian authorities. The case was dismissed in 3 weeks. Insufficient evidence, they said. The agency that recruited him, still operating, still recruiting, still confiscating passports. But here's where the story shifts. Rajesh didn't go home. He joined an underground network, a loose coalition of foreign workers who help each other navigate the system. They pool resources to hire pro bono lawyers. They document abuses. They help workers recover confiscated passports. They've assisted over 200 workers per month in the Klang Valley alone. There's hope in resistance, but it's fragile, and it's not enough. According to Transparency International's 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index, Malaysia's score dropped 23 points over 5 years. It now ranks below Botswana, Rwanda, and Namibia in public sector corruption. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't just Malaysia's problem. According to the ILO, 47 countries use similar kafala-style labor sponsorship systems where workers' visas are tied to employers, stripping them of mobility and legal recourse. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Lebanon, Jordan, Singapore has a version. So does South Korea. Malaysia is just the case study. But here's where it gets personal for everyday Malaysians who have nothing to do with recruitment agencies or labor policy. Kuala Lumpur has 1.8 million residents and an estimated 800,000 undocumented foreign workers. Think about that ratio. Nearly 1 in 3 people in the capital exists outside the system with no records, no rights, and no visibility. What does that do to a society? Start with schools. In Selangor, the state surrounding Kuala Lumpur, public schools now report that 35% of students are foreign-born children, many undocumented. According to the Malaysian Ministry of Education's 2024 data, overcrowding in urban schools has increased by 22% in 3 years. Teacher-student ratios have worsened. Resources are stretched, and Malaysian parents are frustrated not at the children, but at a government that allowed this situation to develop without infrastructure planning. Hospitals face the same strain. Undocumented workers avoid seeking medical care until emergencies, then flood public emergency rooms because they can't be turned away. Unpaid bills pile up. Public health care budgets buckle, and crime, whether real or perceived, becomes a flashpoint. When large populations exist outside legal frameworks, distrust grows. Scapegoating becomes easy. Political parties exploit it. Ethnic tensions rise. But let's return to Amina, the engineer who couldn't find work. Instead of giving up, she started something. A small online platform called Local Hire, connecting Malaysian university graduates with SME small and medium enterprises that are willing to pay fair wages. She bypassed the big factories and focused on local businesses that actually want to invest in Malaysian talent. In 6 months, Amina placed over 400 people in jobs. Graphic designers, IT specialists, accountants, engineers, skilled workers who'd been frozen out by a system designed to prioritize cheap labor over local talent. She's not solving the structural problem, but she's proving something important. Alternatives exist, and they work. Look at Singapore. In 2012, the Singaporean government recognized it had a similar problem. Too much dependence on cheap foreign labor, wages stagnating for citizens, social tension rising. So they did something radical. They raised the minimum salary threshold for foreign workers. They tightened enforcement. They imposed heavy fines on companies caught exploiting workers. The result? Over 10 years, Singapore reduced illegal foreign worker populations by 80%. Wages for citizens rose. Automation increased. Productivity went up. Yes, some businesses struggled. Some closed. But the economy adjusted and became stronger. According to a 2023 study by the National University of Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, proper worker protections and fair wages actually increased GDP by 1.8% over time because workers spend their income locally, fueling consumer demand. There are solutions, proven ones. Countries have done this. So with all these solutions available, why isn't Malaysia acting? The final reason will disturb you. Here's the shocking reality. Malaysia's economy is now structurally dependent on exploitation. Remove foreign workers tomorrow, and 40% of businesses would collapse within 60 days. That's not an activist talking point. That's from the Malaysian Employers Federation, 2024. The country's own business lobby admits it. Let's break down the numbers. Agriculture, 90% foreign labor. Construction, 70% foreign labor. Manufacturing, 65% foreign labor. These aren't fringe industries. These are the pillars of Malaysia's economy, and they've been built on a foundation of artificially suppressed wages and exploited workers. If Malaysia enforced labor laws tomorrow, if they guaranteed minimum wage, safe housing, passport protections, legal recourse, thousands of businesses would face a choice: pay fair wages or shut down. And many would choose the latter, because their entire profit model is based on paying workers as little as possible. That's the trap. The system is so entrenched, reform feels impossible without economic collapse. So politicians delay, agencies profit, workers suffer, and the cycle continues. Let me tell you how Lu Wei's story ended. After the threat from her agent, Lu Wei didn't go home. She reached out to the ILO's Malaysia office, the International Labor Organization. She documented everything: contracts, pay stubs, threatening text messages, photos of living conditions. She testified. She named names. Her case led to an investigation. 3 recruitment agencies were shut down. Her agent was fined $50,000, about $11,000. It wasn't jail time, but it was something. And her testimony is now part of a growing database the ILO is building to pressure the Malaysian government into reform. Lu Wei now works as a case coordinator with the ILO, helping other workers document abuse. In the past 18 months, she's assisted over 1,200 workers in recovering wages, passports, and legal status. She's proof that individuals can fight the system and win even if And here's the final, uncomfortable truth. Businesses know exactly what they're doing. In 2023, an anonymous survey conducted by the Malaysian Trades Union Congress asked employers why they prefer foreign workers. 60% admitted anonymously, because they'd never say it publicly, that they prefer foreign workers specifically because they can't unionize, can't complain, and can be replaced easily. It's not about skill. It's not about work ethic. It's about control. If you've ever wondered why wages in your country aren't rising despite record corporate profits, this is the playbook. Suppress labor power. Import desperation. Profit from a gap. And here's the part that affects you, no matter where you live. Malaysia isn't unique. It's the model. Thailand uses the same system for Myanmar workers. Qatar for South Asians building World Cup stadiums. Saudi Arabia for Filipino domestic workers. The UAE for basically everyone. Parts of Europe are quietly adopting similar frameworks under the language of temporary work permits. According to the ILO's 2024 global estimates, 169 million migrant workers worldwide operate under similarly exploitative systems. That's roughly the population of Bangladesh. Invisible, vulnerable, profitable. And here's where it touches your life. Supply chains. That smartphone in your hand? 33% chance components passed through a Malaysian factory staffed by workers like Lu Wei. Your clothes? Same odds. Your morning coffee? Check the supply chain. Malaysian palm oil picked by undocumented Indonesian workers. ends up in everything from chocolate to shampoo. You're not complicit, but you're connected. We all are. So what do we do? First, consumer pressure works. Companies respond to reputational risk. If enough people demand labor audits, ethical certifications, transparent supply chains, corporations will shift. Slowly, but they will. Second, support organizations doing the groundwork. Migrant Workers' Rights International, the ILO, local NGOs like Tenaganada in Malaysia. They're understaffed and underfunded, but they're the ones actually helping people. Third, push for bilateral labor agreements. When countries sign treaties that mandate worker protections, passport security, and legal recourse, abuse drops. It's not perfect, but it's better than the free-for-all we have now. And here's the hope. Change is possible. The Netherlands reformed its migrant labor system in 2022. They created an independent labor inspectorate with actual enforcement power. They imposed criminal penalties, not fines, jail time for passport confiscation and wage theft. They gave workers direct access to legal support. No questions asked about visa status. Result? Worker abuses dropped 71% in 18 months. Yes, some businesses struggled. Some closed. But unemployment didn't spike. Wages rose. And the Dutch economy grew 2.1% in 2023. Reform doesn't destroy economies. Exploitation does, slowly, invisibly, until the whole structure collapses. Malaysia isn't what the media shows you. It's not just the villain in this story. It's the warning. It's what happens when governments prioritize short-term profit over long-term stability. When corporations are allowed to externalize human costs. When we, as global consumers, look the other way because acknowledging the problem means confronting our own complicity. But warnings are only useful if we listen. Here's what I want to know. If you could fix one thing about Malaysia's system, protect the workers, punish the agents, or force the government to act, which would you choose and why? Drop your answer in the comments, because I'm reading every single one. And here's the harder question. If you found out a product you use right now, your phone, your sneakers, your coffee was made using this system, would you stop buying it? Or is convenience more important? Be honest. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to make us think. I'll pin the most real answer. Let's see who's brave enough to tell the truth.